for the hardest-hitting show in talk radio. The true progressive voice since 2012. This is Southpaws.
And welcome to Southpaws on the Pacifica Radio Network. We are the leaders of the revolution. My name is Darren Gibson, and I'm your co-host.
I'm Katy Steele.
And I'm Jack Prince.
And we've got quite a few topics to discuss today, including an update to a story we told you about 2 weeks ago. And it's actually breaking news as we're coming on the air today. We'll explain what we're talking about in just a couple of minutes. Before we get started, a couple of reminders that you can follow us on social media by going to facebook.com/Southpaws Radio Show. You can follow us on Twitter at Southpaws Radio. You can follow us on Tumblr at southpawsradioshow.tumblr.com. You can follow us on YouTube by doing a search for Southpaws Radio. And you can become a patron of the show by going to patreon.com/Southpaws Radio. You can listen to the show anytime you like at Spreaker.com or at Stitcher.com. Just do a search for Southpaws there. You can find us on Apple Podcasts by doing a search for Southpaws. Once you've found our logo, you've found us. We send links to our weekly episodes to our Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, and YouTube accounts. You can listen to us on Global Community Radio Channel 1 every Saturday night at 11 Eastern. And you can listen to us on great Pacifica stations, including KCEI in Taos, New Mexico, KZGM in Kabul, Missouri, WOOL Bellows Falls, Vermont, and KEPJ San Antonio, Texas, and for that matter, WRWK Midlothian, Virginia. So make sure you listen to us there. Make sure that you give to your local Pacifica station. They can always use the time and the money. So especially if if you've got an idea for a show, hit up your local Pacifica station, because we need more voices. More voices are a good thing. And speaking of something good, I guess I'm just going to have to play the appropriate music for this one. Thought with cops being canceled, you'd never hear this theme again. Yeah. About 2 weeks ago, we told you about a Holland, Michigan restaurant owner who was flaunting coronavirus regulations, and she had a bench warrant issued against her by a district judge in Ingham County, Michigan. We have an update. This is happening right now as we record on Friday, March 19th, 2021. This is John Agar writing for MLive and the Grand Rapids Press. Marlena Pavlos Hackney, who defied state coronavirus orders in operating her restaurant, Marlena's Bistro and Pizzeria, was arrested early Friday, March 19th. The state says she willfully violated state food laws and public health orders and had her food license suspended. State police arrested her around 5:45 a.m. on a civil warrant for contempt of court. She was arrested without incident in a traffic stop on West Lakewood Boulevard and 160th Avenue north of Holland. That according to State Attorney General Dana Nessel in a statement issued to the media. She is being held in the Ingham County Jail. On Thursday, March 18th, Pavlos Hackney told MLive and the Grand Rapids Press that she would not turn herself in. Police would have to arrest her. An Ingham County judge this month issued a bench warrant for her arrest after a hearing held on Zoom. Judge Wanda Stokes also fined Pavlos Hackney $7,500. Her food license was suspended. Local and state health officials said Pavlos Hackney kept her restaurant open despite a mid-November ban on indoor dining that was put in place to slow the spread of coronavirus. Local and state officials said she did not require customers or workers to wear masks or socially distance. And by the way, there is video proof of this. Wood TV was at the restaurant on Thursday and recorded everything. So there's more proof for the state. She put a notice on her front doors that read, quote, "Welcome, we are a constitutionally compliant business. We are not infringing on anyone's inalienable rights. By law, we do not follow any of the governor's, mayor's, health departments, or other government agency orders or suggestions pertaining to social distancing or mask wearing. Your health is your responsibility. End of quote. The restaurant has been busy, and Pavlos Hackney has many supporters. There are events planned Saturday to show support. A GoFundMe page has raised nearly $46,000 of a $50,000 goal to pay her legal fees. So that is the current update on Miss Pavlos Hackney. It's beyond time. She's had her food license suspended for several months now. What has taken so long?
Well, these damn Republicans, they believe in law and order unless they don't agree with the law. And for her to maintain that she's following the law is absolutely retarded. I mean, she's got legal statements based on Michigan law for operation, and she ignores that. She seems to be, when I've talked to her on the phone, she seems to be on some pipeline of information. I see some guy in the news that was sitting in the seat in the restaurant that's going to sue the judge for being outside the boundary of the law. They're upside down, using the law to try and prove you shouldn't obey the law. I mean,
well, and here's, I think I'm so glad you brought this up, Jack, because I was questioning it earlier, how this is being engineered by a force bigger than just her. And it's going to have us divided immediately, right? It's going to get everybody who doesn't think that they should have to wear a mask supporting her and throwing money to her GoFundMe. It's going to get all of us talking about how she is risking public health. But let's think a little bit further down the road here. 2 days from now, when she comes out and gives an interview, which this will happen, she's going to talk about how they arrested her and they brought her into jail. And do you know what happened when they brought her into jail? They threw her in a cell with a bunch of people with no masks. Nobody in jail has to wear a mask. They're not isolating. They're not even vaccinated. So we are setting ourselves up here, because as soon as we start talking about how she was threatening public health and she's getting what she deserves, we're also justifying the fact that the law itself is doing the exact thing that they're punishing her for doing. So while I appreciate Dana Nessel holding her accountable, why isn't Dana Nessel holding our jails accountable, our prisons accountable, our police officers accountable for keeping everybody safe?
Because the short answer to that is that anybody who's incarcerated is a lower-class citizen, quote-unquote.
Bingo. And their actual answer for this is, if you ask them at the jail, they'll say, oh, you're all quarantined together. Well, maybe that's what she's going to say about everybody at a restaurant. We were just all quarantining together.
Well, there was a story that just appeared within the last week or so about why there has been a spike in COVID cases in prisons, not just in Michigan, but all over the country, is because guess who's not wearing masks?
They're COs. They're not getting vaccinated or wearing masks.
Well, the COs, the corrections officers, we'll just call them what they actually are. They're prison guards, because they're not correcting anybody.
No, they are prison guards, technically and officially, and they're proud of being prison guards, but they're actually Nazis.
Sorry to go G. Gordon Liddy on everybody, because G. Gordon Liddy, they're not correcting anybody. They are prison guards. God, doing my worst Gordon Liddy impression. Crass commercial messages. God. Oh, geez. So,
the whole COVID rise in Michigan is such a mystery, right? We just can't understand how we're now, the third worst state in the United States. After March 1st, we're the lowest in the country with the infection rate, and I think with the fatality rate. But, we went through the protesters to reopen the schools. As Katy just pointed out, there are no masks being worn inside any jails across the state. It's been proven that the classrooms don't spread it. The classrooms are essential. But what does spread it are the activities associated with education, wrestling, pom-poms, volleyball, et cetera, with the no mask idiots protested for months ago. I don't see them at this point saying a peep as we're starting to climb back in. And these are the integers. These are the reasons why, that are never talked about, that the rise comes back. Oh, yeah. You turn the news on Channel 8, they'll be talking about the increased percentages. They won't go back 2 weeks ago when they reopened the schools or open the activities, won't mention the prisons.
But if you are... Right. If
The
you
fact that, go ahead.
I don't mean to interrupt, but if you, like Jack is, I'm sure, if you're in tune with people who work with high school students, then you're hearing it, that they're being contact traced, that they're, getting positive cases, that it's being spread through these kids. Parents are organizing dances that the school is refusing to hold. So all of those things are exactly what's spreading it. You're 1,000,000% right. It's the youth that spreads it, and then it's going to be, the most compromised and the old people who suffer from it.
There's a doctor that wrote in Bridge Magazine, Sarah Lyon-Callow. This is her quote: "The classroom environment has not been responsible for the recent outbreaks and increase. It tends to be the activities associated with school peripheral that are not essential, like sports, the dances you mentioned, et cetera, et cetera."
This was a conversation I had with my son's principal 2 months ago when he went back. And she spent 40 minutes on the phone convincing me of that. She said, we have not had any cases proven to be spread at the school. Every single case they had at the school had been spread outside of the school, and they could trace why and how and where. And after I talked to her for that long, and she said, we've got them separated. This is your kid, I understand. She said, I promise you I would not lead you in the wrong direction if I didn't think it was safe. And, she was absolutely right. There's been no cases even 2 months later that have spread within the school. So,
and here's the thing about it. And by the way, back at the end of February, there was a case of corona where somebody had gone to the restaurant and ate and had coronavirus and got diagnosed 2 days later. So guess what? It's being spread in the restaurants.
You bet.
But this is the big argument that I had. And I mentioned it 2 weeks ago when we were talking about this. If she feels that she doesn't need to follow this law, how does she feel about laws regulating restaurants where you have to store certain foods at certain temperatures? When's that going to happen?
But I mean, that's how it is everywhere. Not everybody's held accountable to all the laws. There's more than one justice system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't think she's necessarily had to, follow. Look how long she got away with breaking this law before they actually finally had to do something about it.
Yeah, because
it didn't come down to her breaking the law. It came down to somebody else might break the law if we keep letting her. That's what it came down to.
Well, there's other restaurants that have broken this. And I think maybe it's time, if you're going to crack down on one, time to crack down on all of them. Really, it is.
Or just abolish the police and let people govern themselves.
Yeah, well, the problem there is when you start serving food and you're not following time-honored traditions, sorry to get into pro wrestling terminology here, you're going to get people sick, you're going to get people killed. That's just the bottom line to it. For example, we talked about this. I mentioned that at least once, twice a year, the county health department goes into every food service establishment, schools, businesses, bars, restaurants, and they do inspections. A lot of the counties, they put their inspections online, and I actually have it up here. SwordSolutions.com is where a lot of counties put their health department inspections online. And I happen to have Marlena's Bistro and Pizzeria health department inspections for the last 4 years up here. All of them have been compliant, with one exception. September 19th, 2019, there were 2 violations at Marlena's. One was called a priority potentially hazardous food. There were cold food items stored above 41 degrees. They said they would get the freezer fixed or the cooler fixed. The other one was a priority foundation sanitizing solutions, because you're supposed to have so many parts per million sanitizer in the 3-compartment sink or 2-compartment sink or whatever. They didn't have the proper testing tools at the time. They had testing strips to test for iodine, but they weren't testing for the sanitizer. So you had no idea how much sanitizer was in any of this stuff. And again, you can get sick if restaurants are not following the rules. Mm-hmm. It's a public health issue. It really is.
I'm just here to be the devil's advocate.
Yeah.
As is my job.
Yeah.
The health department, I think it's hilarious, comes in and goes through and does their whole evaluation, and they judge you whether you got stuff in your sink drain, and they want to talk about if you've tested your sanitizer solution, but nobody wants to talk about the poisonous water you're serving all your customers. Exactly. Nobody gets violated for that. Yeah. Nope, we just get charged. We pay for it, then we die.
Yeah. Once again on the news, and this, I'm glad you brought that up. Once again on the news, just Thursday evening, another story about how Wolverine wants to take the house dump site where they have dumped PFAS for decades and turn it into a park.
Oh, of course they do. That's what they do with all of the places where they dump their PFAS. They turn it into a park.
Exactly.
I've actually, I just popped up on my notification, so I think I should throw this out here. I've got a story from The Guardian. It says, plummeting sperm counts, shrinking penises, toxic chemicals threaten humanity, by Erin Brockovich. The chemicals to blame for our reproductive crisis are found everywhere and in everything. This is Thursday, March 18th.
We're done, right? Doesn't the same article gave a time schedule?
Ooh.
By the year 2045, the sperm count will be down to
zero.
To zero. Yeah.
Oh,
zero. No babies, no reproduction, no more humans. Forgive me for asking, why isn't the UN calling an emergency meeting on this right now? Erin Brockovich asked.
Yeah.
Well,
remember we saw Brockovich, Darren?
Yeah, 4 years ago. She appeared at Comstock Park when the Wolverine Worldwide PFAS story first came out. Yeah, we covered that for Pacifica Radio and for this show.
So 4 years of investigation by Wolverine, and it came up with a 40-page suggestion answer, right? From what I just vaguely remember the article I read it. 40 pages, and most of it was how to plant trees, I think, to avert this problem.
Yeah, I went to the health department and actually read through everything they had on this from their computer, and I found some really, really disgusting things. I mean, they've known about this chemical since, wait for it, the 50s when they built the federal highway system, which is what they built it on, as much of the toxic stuff they could, they threw out there and built the highways on top of it. MDOT property along the side is where they've been dumping it since. You can see, there's little driveways that don't actually lead to a driveway, but then you see how there's a huge hole and all the trees are dying. Yeah, that's where they're dumping it, guys.
Yeah.
Everywhere you look.
Part of US 131, right around the Ann Street area, is the old Butterworth Dump.
Oh, yeah. There's several dumps that a lot of people don't know about. The area, I believe it's owned by the DNR now, near Knapp and Leonard. So there was several dumps over by where the state dump was.
Yeah, Plainfield Township too. And again, Plainfield Township has their own PFAS problem. So, but one thing that I want to mention about the Marlena Pavlos acne, we found this headline. This is Justin Barclay writing for Wood Radio, which is hard right wing, Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity, Glenn Beck, all the violent conservatives. Here's what he wrote about Marlena. She escaped communism in her home country of Poland to only come to America and have to face it here. Wow. Talk about steering the conversation.
Oh.
That's the height and width and the only lexicon word that Republicans and conservatives can have. When I was in second grade, it was a big dumb skunk. When you couldn't think of a worse moniker to call somebody, right? You're a big dumb skunk. But now they just flip out communism.
Yep, you're just a commie.
Yeah, that's all I got to say.
Yep. The big words I want to flip ban them I can't use on Facebook or I'll get a 30-day ban again. Yeah. She escaped communism just to face it in America. Yeah. I don't think so. Not even close. Oh, Jesus. And one more story I want to get to before we get into talking about what happened in Atlanta this week. Talking about restaurants and masks. I have this story. This is published by Eric Alvarez, writing for WFAA Television out of Denton, Texas. Legends Diner is serving up a side of science. Owner Wayne Lacombe said, quote, "We do a surcharge, $50 if we have to explain why a mask is important," end of quote. There's also a $75 surcharge if he has to listen to why you disagree. The tongue-in-cheek sign in the window has gotten a lot of support in person and online. Lacombe said, quote, "People laughing, taking pictures of it, mostly great reactions," end of quote. Co-owner and Wayne's wife, Kat, fielded one comment that was less than enthusiastic. Kat Lacombe told WFAA, quote, "He didn't trust a restaurant owner manager to give him medical advice," end of quote. It didn't end well. Kat, a retired registered nurse with 28 years in oncology, posted a lengthy Facebook response which drew the distinction between safety precautions and government restrictions, highlighted by the phrase, quote, "Some things must be done without someone telling you to," end of quote. Kat Lacombe said, quote, "I understand that they're tired of this, but COVID's not gone," end of quote. She ain't wrong. Matter of fact, she's right on the money.
Yeah.
To paraphrase Pericles, just because you don't take an interest in COVID doesn't mean COVID won't take an interest in you.
Unless you get vaccinated, then it won't take an interest in you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, by the way, did you see any of the Senate hearing yesterday? Rand Paul jousting with Dr. Fauci.
Yeah, I did.
I did not.
Oh my God! I wish Fauci would have got up and slapped the shit out of Rand Paul. Smirky little bastard. I hate Rand Paul. Hate his guts. He's like Mike Shirky.
With Fauci.
He's like Mike Shirky. He's exactly like Mike Shirky.
He's more obnoxious than Shirky. He's a mosquito.
I don't know if that's possible. Shirky's pretty damn obnoxious.
Yeah, Rand Paul is a mosquito in a small tent with no light on. It's just, he's torture. Just listen to him.
Oh, God. The couple recently got their first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine at Texas Motor Speedway, where Denton County Public Health Director Dr. Matt Richardson said 12,000 vaccine doses a day are only part of the solution. Richardson said, quote, "We still want people to wear masks. We still want people to be physically distant," end of quote. Back at Legends Diner, a second sign in the window reads, quote, "Wear a mask. Only a small percentage have been vaccinated," end of quote. Wayne Lacombe said business owners want things to get back to normal just as much as anyone else, but he also has a responsibility to protect the customers that do like his signs and those who don't. He said, quote, "Our business is 50, 60, 70, 80-year-olds. Unless we all work as a team, we're not going to finish the race," end of quote. That's true. Speaking of team, I saw a meme this morning on social media. Next time your boss says for you to work as a team, form a union.
There you go.
Katy, you're being awful quiet over there.
I'm just like...
Yeah.
My head always goes to the big picture, and I feel like it used to be okay as long as we stick together and as long as we're a team, but now it's like we don't have the resources. The majority of us stick together, and we still don't have the majority of the resources. Not anymore,
No.
So what do we do?
And we haven't for a while.
Yeah. At this point, it's like we got to do something a little bit bigger, and I don't know. I'm like, the mask debate for me is really... I'm just over it. I guess I'm over it. Yeah. And I know it's been a long time coming, and I know it still matters, and I know everybody's over even wearing them, but I just feel like we are so divided, and that is the one thing that keeps us divided. And I don't know what we're going to do to get past this moment, but I don't want it to get worse. And, I see this anti-Asian American headline everywhere this week, and I can't stop asking myself why we're not talking about the real problem. We talk about Black Lives Matter. We talk about Islamophobia. We talk about anti-Asian hate. But it's white supremacy. It's white supremacy every time. And if they put those words in the headlines, maybe we could focus on the real problem. But they never do. And so we end up focusing on anti-Asian American hate or Black Lives Matter or, and it's just so ineffective and redundant.
And you and I both know why they don't say white supremacy. Who runs and controls all the media?
White supremacists.
People. Thank you. Thank you.
And if we talk about white supremacy, we're not putting it on one white country or one white nationality, which is what we've been really good at lately, because, finally Americans are starting to take some accountability, and we are accepting the fact that we are the trailer park of the West, and it is what it is. But let's not let everybody else off scot-free. We're not the only white country that did this.
See, Katy, our generation, not ours, not mine and Darren's, but mine, it was coined in college that the problem was wasps. At least a wasp indicates white. And then when you tie Anglo-Saxon Protestant to it, you've got white religious people. That's close to the bone. It's not white supremacy. But you're talking about the Asian headline. The white supremacists in 1871. I mean, this is a tradition. This racism is an American tradition. 1871, they hung over 20 Asians in, I think it's California, destroyed their entire neighborhood, burned it to the ground. The convictions were overthrown. There were, I think, 5 people that were apprehended and charged with the murder, and somehow those were just overthrown. That is America's legacy. The white supremacists are an undercurrent that has not weakened, and
right.
You're seeing just a branch of it with the Asian hatred now.
And yeah,
just a little tributary.
The thing that bothers me the most is the media is acting as if this is suddenly increasing. It's just right now getting worse, and that's clearly not the case. It's been bad. It hasn't gotten better. It's been getting increasingly worse since the beginning of time, and if we keep acting like it's just something that's going to go in cycles and we just have to keep stopping it when it comes back instead of addressing the fact that it's us, it's white supremacy.
But again, it's the white supremacist narrative.
Right.
Well, for example, when the Civil Rights Act was passed in 1964, I'm sure a lot of white people said, well, we passed it. Throw our hands in the air.
Right.
We're done.
We fixed racism.
We fixed it. No, you didn't.
Well, I mean, that's what we were taught when I was a kid, that, we fixed racism when we integrated schools.
And that's a
when
very
segregation
good point.
ended, we fixed it. And that was the end of the civil rights era because everybody had civil rights. It never even occurred to me that we were still, oppressing people.
It was so clear and manifest when you saw the white supremacists coddling this guy, claiming he had a bad day. And, I think you're going to see this slow trickle of monikers. He's troubled. He was troubled. He was, I guess he was overly addicted, which is a misnomer, to sex.
In 100 years, we're going to find out he was paid by the CIA, but we won't be around for that.
Well, we see the white supremacist whitewash, if you will, of all of these violent supremacist acts with a slow trickle of excuses. And this one, it started within hours. It's amazing.
Oh, yeah. You could tell it was a pre-written narrative. That's why all of this is so disgusting.
Well, they've got the pre-written narratives for pretty much everything. Once it explodes, I guess, if you want to call it an explosion. But I've got this. This is Jacqueline Diaz and Vanessa Romo writing for National Public Radio. This is dated March 17th. At least 8 people were killed and several others injured in a series of shootings at 3 spas in the Atlanta metro region Tuesday. The suspect has been taken into custody in connection with all 3 shootings, according to the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. The Cherokee County Sheriff's Office announced that Robert Aaron Long, a 21-year-old white man from Woodstock, Georgia, was arrested at about 8:30 p.m. local time following a chase that led officers into Crisp County, about 3 hours away from when the first shootings at a spa occurred. Long was transported to the Crisp County Detention Center. I think he's back in the Atlanta area in jail there. Here's the thing. When the cops pulled him over and stopped him, he was on his way to Florida to continue the shootings.
First of all, that he was pulled over having just killed 8 people and wasn't killed on the spot like a black man would have been.
Exactly.
I can't get over how he wasn't manhandled after murdering all the people, first of all. Second of all, his sexual addiction thing. It took me a minute to understand the root of why this really infuriated me so bad. But
me too.
Once I think it through, I get it now. It's because what they took a narrative that was already dehumanizing an entire culture of people, right? just by making it about anti-American hate. And then his excuse for dehumanizing the entire culture of people was that they were female, so they weren't human anyway. He further dehumanized them. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
Just by making it about sexual addiction. It was like they weren't even people, they were just women, you know?
Or more insulting is the fact that they were to blame for his addiction, these big flashing signs.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and that's it. If you're Asian, you were to blame for turning him on, and in some cases, in men's psychology, you know, the way they're thinking. Mm-hmm. It's like, we can't even wake up and walk out of our house without doing something that we can be accused of, you know? It's like because we made somebody feel a certain way. And it's like, that's, if your gender and your skin color is...
We have talked on this show since the beginning of this show about, I might as well equate this violence to rape culture. Oh, they must have had it coming.
Oh, yeah, it is rape
because
culture.
How they dressed, how they acted. Oh, she wore too much makeup. She was showing too much shoulder. Because that was the story we talked about for years. A girl that got in trouble at school for...
But did she ask for it? Yep.
Showing too much shoulder. This is the same path. It really is.
Yeah, and, you know, this is the 1930s rape trial in Mississippi where the woman somehow, you know, led him on and was suggestive, wore the tight skirt. But the thing that really disgusts me more than that trend is the excuse itself emanates out of Christianity. The Christian counselors have discovered that so many counseling sessions require giving some plausible explanation for the husband's actions. So they come up with sexual addiction. And, you know, we've seen it used by celebrities. There is no such thing. Psychiatrists would tell you there is no such thing. There is no drug. You can be addicted to heroin and take a drug that will offset it, right? That will substitute it. You have no drug. We have drugs on the market, but they're all to enhance sex in the United States. There's no drug to slow down your hubby. I guess at least you could package a cold shower in a pill somehow and hand that to him. This whole sexual addiction thing is a Christian derivative. It's driven by the need to excuse the actions of those same white supremacist males. It goes back before to the woman dressing provocatively, but now with sexual addiction, and it's spreading fast.
And it's more prevalent. Yeah, it's more prevalent in cultures where women are dehumanized, where they're more property, you know, where they're considered more of a property than a human. So that's very good point. I hadn't really looked at or thought about.
Yeah, and I'm glad you made the point, Jack, about the pills for erectile dysfunction, because conservatives will tell women, oh, you can't have birth control.
Right.
But Mr. White Man over there, you've got erectile dysfunction. Here, have some Viagra, and we'll cover it.
Yeah.
But if you want birth control covered, oh, no, we can't allow that. Let me continue the story here. Record searches into Long's background do not show any prior criminal history. The FBI is assisting Cherokee County and Atlanta police in the investigation. Jay Baker with the Cherokee County Sheriff's Office said when officers arrived at Young's Asian Massage, 2 victims were already dead, another 3 were still alive. That's according to local television there. The wounded were rushed to a hospital. 2 of them have since died. One of the victims was a man, as is a survivor. By the way, they have identified the man who died. He apparently was, I guess he worked doing security systems, camera installs, and I guess had done work for the spa before, but apparently was there because he was looking at getting out of the surveillance camera business and wanting to buy his own spa. At least that's what has been reported this morning by NBC News.
Somebody in the surveillance camera business wanted to buy a spa. I'm a little suspect about that.
Yeah, exactly. The names of the 4 people killed at Young's Asian Massage, as well as that of the person who was injured, have not been released. Well, they have been since then. About an hour after that shooting, Atlanta police were called to respond to a robbery in progress at Gold Spa. Once there, they discovered the bodies of 3 women who had been fatally shot. Moments later, officers were called to another shooting across the street at a different spa, aromatherapy spa, where one more woman was found dead of gunshot wound. Authorities said that many of the victims appeared to be women of Asian descent. None of the names of the injured or deceased have been publicly released. Apparently, they're still trying to locate next of kin. And what I heard on NBC News this morning was that they're reaching out to the South Korean government to get a hold of the families. So
they probably don't want to talk about the human trafficking labor aspect of this, right? They probably just want to keep it to the violent part. Okay.
No.
Yeah.
Because, human
trafficking. Did you see the 70-year-old woman that took a 2x4 to her attacker?
I did see that.
In San Francisco.
That was great. Oh, boy. Let me skip around a little bit here. An organization called Stop AAPI Hate tracks reports of violence against Asian American and Pacific Islander communities. Since March 19, 2020, around the start of the pandemic until February 28th of this year, the organization learned of 3,795 hate incidents against the Asian American community, according to a report by the organization released Tuesday. But here's the thing, is that more crime or more reporting?
Well, here's the thing. If we were focused on not anti-American or anti-Asian American hate, but we were focused on anti-white supremacy, just think of how much more collaboration we would have.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's how they keep us divided into subsets, right? Now you've got the Black Lives Matter group over here. You've got Asians over here. You've got people over here. What we really need is everybody to get together and be like, no more white supremacy. No more.
Yeah, exactly. But like Carlin says, why do they divide us? So that all the rich people can go to get away with all the money.
They're the ones with the power, so it is what it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Jack, you sent me the couple stories here about the Atlanta shootings. One you sent me was Teo Armas writing for the Washington Post, dated March 18th. After a 21-year-old was charged with killing 8 people at spas in Metro Atlanta, he allegedly told investigators he did not have a racial motive. Let me stop there. Bullshit. Bull.
Yeah. Plop on the dish.
Yeah, exactly. Even as deadly shootings heightened Asian Americans' fears about a surge in violent attacks, police said that Robert Aaron Long blamed his sexual addiction. Yeah, well, sexual addiction.
I can't help but note how the percentage of the fraction of articles regarding the Belt Road Initiative to the fraction of articles regarding anti-Asian hate, it's just got me really questioning things right now, because why aren't we talking about the Belt Road Initiative at all? How come nobody even knows what that is? But anti-Asian hate is the number one trending topic in our headlines. I just think we should all think really hard about what's happening and who's controlling the narrative.
Yeah. Jack, you sent me an old article, Psychology Today. This is January 19th of 2010, written by Michael Bader, DMH. The headline reads, Sex Addiction is an excuse for not thinking.
Yeah.
Truth.
I'll read.
Pretty simple.
I'll read bits and pieces of it here. Tiger Woods has reportedly sought treatment for sex addiction. Given the tsunami of false reports about him, this rumor is highly suspect. Nevertheless, no one would be surprised if he joined the list of high-profile figures, usually men, who have been labeled sex addicts or actively sought treatment, such as David Duchovny, Charlie Sheen, Michael Douglas, Elliot Spitzer, Mark Foley, and Ted Haggard, to name a few. Whether applied earnestly or as a PR gloss for bad behavior, I'll say it's the latter, not the former. Sex addiction is an increasingly common diagnosis. In my view, it's a problematic one. It's ambiguous, hard to define, blurry around the edges, and an excuse for not thinking. If a married man has a lot of extramarital sex, is he necessarily a sex addict?
No.
If a seemingly straight man frequents restrooms for casual sex, is he an addict? How much pornography
he's revered. Are you kidding me?
How many women get to cheat on their husbands and then they're like, I'm sorry, it was sex addiction?
None.
Exactly.
Can't think of one.
None.
In Western Civ class, when I was 19 years old, they gave me a book called The King Must Die at Alma College. And what it was this hero in American literature who had successful sex escapades across Europe. In the 60s, we're talking about the fact that the American male is revered for being successful, whether they're married or not married. It makes no difference. And, this whole thing about sex addiction, the Bible had a guy who was sexually addicted, who was supposedly the most loved of Jewish patriarchs, King David. He had it so hot for, who was it? Bathsheba, right? Remember the story? That he takes the husband and puts him in a battle, and he knows he's going to get killed. There's no repercussion. You know, I guess he was addicted sexually. That's the first example of Christian sex addiction. Goes back to King David.
I'd never heard that. I can't say I've studied religion hard at all, but I did not know that story. So that is.
Oh yeah, that's the story.
Great.
Yeah.
If I would have heard it, my mind would have went right where yours did, Jack. But wait a minute. That kind of conflicts with what you were teaching me.
But the article continues here with this point. It says, how much pornography does someone have to look at? How many hours spent in chat rooms? Sex workers hired. I'm replacing the word he uses here to go from hound dog to sex addict. Jeez.
Yes, I know. Yeah, wouldn't it be hell if the 17-year-old heard that the 301st act of masturbation you go blind, and the kid's at $2.99. You know what I mean?
Keep a tally of bedside like Pee Wee did in the movie Porky's, but then we'll stop there.
It's going to be fine, though, because by the year 2045,
there's not going to be any sperm left. So
that's right. You couldn't find your tallywhacker anyway. It'd be too small.
Yeah, penises are shrinking as well. So these problems might just solve themselves.
Well, actually, we've got a way around this. Have you guys heard this came out of Israel? I forget why they're doing this, but scientists in Israel have created a mechanical womb. I am not lying here. They have created a mechanical womb, and they have successfully brought to half-term mice embryos in a mechanical womb.
Huh.
So what's going to be next?
Present.
What's going to be next? How soon are they going to get to producing humans in a mechanical womb?
Oh, much sooner than you would expect, I'm sure.
Yeah, you can do it in test tubes. Yeah, sure. There was a movie out about 5 years ago about the last child born. Remember that? It was a hit.
No, I don't remember that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
Wow. So
But they could see it coming then. They knew it was based on science.
I went to the post
They saw the trend.
office. You can print your own labels now and do your own stuff there. They've got a kiosk. I mean, there's robots for everything. We got robotics manufacturers all over now in Wyoming.
yeah.
Robotic dogs are out now for the police.
Yeah.
Oh,
my
God,
gosh,
that
I'm so
scares
scared
the
of
hell
those.
out of me.
All of it,
Kidding.
though. You've seen their bodysuits. Think of that. Their bodysuits and their dogs. What are we even going to do?
I don't
They'll
know.
sit down in the police station and be like a game. They can send the dog to your house. They make the robot to your house, beat the shit out of you, and
Pick up your
no
house,
overtime
move
paid.
it next door. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I want to go on to this story, and we talked about it a little bit last week, but I guess we kind of have to go into a little more detail on the whole Oprah interview with Harry and Meghan, because some more things have come out and everything is hitting the fan now. So just to recap, Oprah Winfrey had an interview that aired on CBS that then aired pretty much all over the world with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. And in part of the conversation during this interview, Meghan Markle told Oprah that there was a conversation about her unborn child and his skin color. There was also a conversation about Meghan Markle and mental health. Apparently she was having an episode, wanted treatment, and then the palace told her no. So this has been a wide-ranging interview. Well, Piers Morgan, or as investigative journalist Greg Palast calls him, Piers Moron, decided to jump into this because he's a quote-unquote former friend of Meghan's. Now, I'll explain what really happened here. So Piers apparently became friends with her, and she supposedly ghosted him after he met Prince Harry. So ever since then, Piers Morgan has been saying all sorts of negative things about Meghan Markle. gets on the air of Good Morning Britain the Monday after this interview happens and says, I don't believe a word that comes out of her mouth. Flat out. Started getting into an argument with a royal expert who also happens to be a woman of color and was basically talking over the top of her and shouting at her. The next day, one of Piers Morgan's co-hosts on Good Morning Britain started lighting into, and not even lighting into him, just brought up, hey, you've said a lot of negative things about Meghan in the past for years now. You really need to get off of this topic. Piers Morgan got up, walked out of the studio, and quit the show. Supposedly quit the show. I have my suspicions he got canned. Rightfully so, by the way. He's an idiot. Mm-hmm. So Sharon Osbourne, Ozzy Osbourne's wife, happens to be one of the hosts of The Talk on CBS. It's basically CBS's version of The View, but they've only recently have started getting more political on the show. So she gets on there and starts defending Piers Morgan. He has the right to free speech, blah, 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 blah. Piers is my friend. The next day, Wednesday of last week, which would have been, March 10th? Mm-hmm. She gets into a verbal confrontation with co-host Sheryl Underwood. And Sheryl says, hey, I'm talking to my friend here, referring to Sharon, and said, I know that Piers is your friend, and I know you're defending him, and that I compliment you on that, but he has said some pretty awful things about Meghan Markle, some things that might even be considered racist, and you're defending him. And she lost her mind. Started cussing. They had to start bleeping her. They went to break early. She then...
Osbourne did?
Yeah.
Osbourne lost her mind?
Yeah. So they go to break. They come back from break, and Sharon Osbourne is just berating Sheryl Underwood right on the air. I'm offended. How dare you call me racist, blah, 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 blah. And
I slept with a black guy once. No.
And
the normal, that's the normal white woman defense. Sorry.
So now Sharon is getting on Sheryl Underwood's case and said, oh, don't you cry. If anybody should be crying, it should be me. Because I don't know if Sheryl Underwood was getting upset. If she was, rightfully so. I haven't seen the clip. So, and I really don't care about it. But what I care about is the racism and all the other stuff that Sharon Osbourne has allegedly been involved with. And I have this story here. This is Yashar Ali writing for his own website, Substack. Exclusive, Sharon Osbourne frequently referred to former co-host Julie Chen as wonton and slanty eyes, sources say. Mm-hmm. Sharon Osbourne, co-host of the CBS daytime panel show The Talk, would frequently refer to then co-host Julie Chen, who is Chinese-American, as wonton and slanty eyes, according to multiple sources, including former co-host Leah Remini. Osbourne also referred to former co-host and executive producer Sarah Gilbert, who is a lesbian, as liquor and fish eater. And I'm going to have to bleep that because that's a word you can't say on FCC-regulated airwaves. Again, that is also according to multiple sources, including former co-host Leah Remini. The accusations come as Osbourne faces a torrent of criticism for not only publicly supporting British TV personality Piers Morgan, who accused Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, of lying about having suicidal thoughts and doubted her accounts of racism within the royal family and their court, but also appearing defensive and angry and ordering one of her co-hosts to not cry when asked about the blowback during a segment on The Talk. Though Osbourne has spoken abusively for years with little to no consequence, she's facing significant scrutiny for the first time in her career as a TV personality. The Talk has been put on hiatus as its co-hosts at past and present air grievances on Twitter. Osbourne is threatening at least one of them with litigation. So that one is Holly Robinson Pete, who also used to be a host on that show, got on Twitter and basically accused Sharon Osbourne of getting her fired because Holly was quote-unquote too ghetto for that show. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not racist at all.
No, not at all. Yeah.
Well, the racist thing, Katy, you mentioned the big picture. In any one of these stories, there's a road that leads to the big picture. We have such a lot of trouble seeing the Confederate flag. If the Confederate flag flies by you today on the road, you're going to grab the steering wheel and squeeze it hard. So am I. But we have the monarchy represented.
Yep.
As much as the Confederacy was represented by a flag, the royal family sitting on 400 years of kings and princes and queens is a representation starker than the Confederate flag of racism, of global racism,
and classism,
of racist imperialism. So we can quibble back and forth about the racism in this interview, but the whole damn prospect of a royal family getting airtime every day is the real picture.
Bingo.
To me.
Why are we even listening to Sharon Osbourne? Because she's rich.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
And because she knows the racist royal family, who, again, they've managed to skate all the scrutiny for 400 or 500 years now, throwing it all at America right now, and we are just standing here ready to carry it. But come on, we're not fixing anything by taking all this responsibility and just letting the imperialism and dynasty continue.
Exactly.
A source familiar with the matter told Yashar Ali that Sharon Osbourne, via her attorney, sent a cease and desist letter to Holly Robinson Peete demanding she take down her tweet within 24 hours or face litigation. Please, bring it on, Sharon. Holly.
Yeah, really.
Holly, I got 3 words for you. Stephen P. New. Oh, good Lord. Stephen is an attorney in West Virginia who's been suing. He successfully sued Johnson & Johnson over the talc powder issue. He's now suing other companies for polluting the water in West Virginia. So he's going after everybody.
Actually, this is a side note, but I read an article or a headline yesterday. I didn't read the whole story. That 3M is being sued for hearing loss for veterans.
Oh, because of
their earplugs.
The faulty earplugs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think it's interesting how many different ways 3M has violently attacked our military. Like, they've violently attacked them. 3M and DuPont have injured more American military members than probably any other corporation.
By the way, Leah Remini has come out and said that she absolutely regrets not speaking out earlier about Sharon Osbourne. So Leah Remini just doesn't care. This is the woman that goes after the Scientologist. She has her own show on A&E where she's basically going after Scientology, and she's been stalked by the Scientologist.
Is she an ex-Scientologist then?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, there's a few of them that are finally starting to get together and work against that.
Yeah, so...
Well, and the other guy, the Keith, can't think of his last name, with the cult where they branded the women so they have sex with him, and it's just big.
Gross.
They just had a special on Netflix about that guy.
Yeah.
Man.
And we don't have a lot of time, but I was really moved by the documentary on Farrell versus Allen this week.
Yeah, I haven't seen that.
I haven't either, but I'm definitely looking forward to seeing it. I heard it's moving.
Yeah, where can people see that if they want to?
I think it was on Hulu.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll have to spend some time at the library because I do have Hulu, but I hardly ever use it because I don't have internet where I live. So,
but here's a rich white guy. It took years, but this documentary is a nail in the coffin for him.
That's what I've heard too, and it's sick that it took this long.
And speaking of nail in the coffin, if Sharon Osbourne happens to get fired from the talk for all of this, let me ask you, let's play the game. Is it cancel culture, or did she dumb herself out of position?
Oh, come on. There's no such thing as cancel culture.
Oh, the violent conservatives will tell you differently.
The violent conservatives will tell me a lot of things if I let them talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, the violent conservatives are defending Pierce, saying that was his right of speech, and I'm sure they'll do the same thing with Sharon Osbourne.
Yeah, that's their tactic, is to victimize themselves, more so than the actual victim every single time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. I want to finish the show with a special off-the-cuff edition here. We've talked in the past about voter fraud. We have a perfect example. This is Minya Von Burke writing for NBC News. This is dated March 16th. I can't believe this actually happened. The assistant principal of a Florida elementary school was arrested along with her teenage daughter after authorities said they hacked a high school's homecoming election. Laura Rose Carroll, who works at Bellevue Elementary School in Pensacola, and her 17-year-old daughter are accused of using Carroll's credentials to gain access to student records on the Escambia County District's FOCUS system. Agents with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement began investigating in November when the school district reported that there had been unauthorized access into hundreds of student accounts. The mother and daughter allegedly used the system to cast hundreds of votes in the homecoming election at Tate High School, where the teen was a student. I say was because she's been expelled and she's in juvie.
What?
She's been arrested.
What?
She's in juvie.
What?
Yep.
I'm sorry, I'm not okay with this. First of all, she was raised by who?
A school principal.
Okay, but a school principal, the principal was part of it, right?
Yes.
Okay, so why is the kid in juvie?
I'll get to that here.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah. Carol and her daughter accessed 372 high school records, a majority of those belonging to Tate students starting in August 2019. By the way, she was bragging about this to her fellow students.
Well, I'm sure if it was you as a high school student and your mom had that kind of power and gave it to, wouldn't you?
You might think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Carol's daughter was expelled from the high school, according to WKMG television. The two were arrested on Monday on several charges, including unauthorized use of computers, unlawful use of a two-way communications device, and criminal use of personally identifiable information.
I cannot get on board with this. I'm sorry, but it's a homecoming election.
Mom was booked in the Escambia County Jail on an $8,500 bond, but she is released. The daughter has been taken to the Escambia Regional Juvenile Detention Center.
Oh, my gosh. I'm sorry, y'all. I mean, I think that definitely there should be accountability and there should be honesty and all of these things.
Homecoming
You're putting
election.
Kids in jail over a homecoming election.
Why would you even hack a computer to rig a homecoming election?
Right, but if you're
makes no sense.
if you're gonna bring accountability for that, like let's start at the beginning of where the problem started here, right?
Yeah.
Let's get the mom for being a horrible parent. Let's get them like actually at the root of the problem. But arresting them for rigging the homecoming election, oh my god, can't make this stuff up.
No, and of course it has to be Florida, doesn't it?
Oh yeah.
All the weird stuff happens in Florida. Well, we're actually out of time for any more weird stuff this week, but we'll be back next week. In the meantime, I'm Darren Gibson.
I'm Katy Steele.
I'm Jack Prince.
For Kristen Cook, please support independent media and the First Amendment.
The stations that carry Southpaws do not necessarily share the opinions expressed on the show. Southpaws is protected by the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution and is copyrighted by Big D Entertainment. All rights reserved.